Alex, thank you for your introduction. My name is Jan-Ove Steppert, or just call me Ove. I'm infrastructure architect for container and or observability solution at CLAAS, and I will take a look just beyond observability. So we heard today already a lot of using the observability stack from Grafana, and I will take a look just a little bit on another side of the Grafana cloud. So just a small introduction of my person. So I'm almost 10 years working at CLAAS in the IT department. I have been 25 years working as a volunteer for the fire department, already also collected an silbernes Ehrenanzeichen from the Innenminister of Nordrhein-Westphalia, and in my free time I'm just also working at the Airbeat One. That's a big music festival in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern. We are talking about 80,000 people being on the campground when the festival is running. So it's the second biggest city in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern for that time. I'm responsible for everything about communication and technology for fire and rescue service at that Airbeat. I'm also did the hardware refresh of the D6 POP in Hamburg around 12 years ago, and I'm in my time at home really enjoying working with Ubiquiti Networks hardware and some other IT stuff. And I also love a good barbecue, like the most of us maybe. Just a little fun fact, we are also using Grafana at the Airbeat One for the system observability. We are using Grafana at home at me, and we are also planning to use Grafana in the fire department for our network observability. Small introduction of CLAAS. CLAAS is making agriculture machinery, so who is knowing CLAAS already from the press or from at home? So, okay, I see some hands, maybe the half of the round. So CLAAS is a family-owned company founded in 1913. We are living in Nordrhein-Westphalia in Hasewinkel. That's near Bielefeld. I think everybody was responsible for soccer knowing Bielefeld. It's the last 3 days. We are one of the international leader in agriculture technology, so harvest machinery, combines, and mounted equipment, wheel loaders, and some other stuff. We stand for innovation and some high quality technology, so we focus on sustainable solutions, digital technologies, and more around that. We are around 12,000 employees worldwide, and we have a big presence on the whole globe. So we are in 38 sites with different types of companies, and we are operating in over 100 countries worldwide. So just a small introduction of my person and the company, and we already seen the ChatGPT logo today. So to just get a little bit an overview, what is agriculture, what is farming doing for the world, we can take ChatGPT and insert a little question about how many % of the products in the legal has a direct or indirect responsible to or is related to farming. So please raise your hand if you think more than 50% of the legal is related to farming. 50%, okay? Obviously. Who is thinking more than 70% of the legal is okay? It's just the most of the round, so you're right. If you ask ChatGPT for that question, ChatGPT answers that at least 70 to 80% of the products in the legal is related to farming. So you can think about the normal products like apple or juice or something like that, but you can also think about cosmetics products with plant-based oils, about tea and some many other products. So farming is one of the drivers for getting the fulfillment of a Lidl shop or Aldi or something else. A little bit around our tech stack. So we are using obviously the Grafana stack at the cloud. With nearly every product that is placed, we are using around 50% of the Grafana cloud stack until now. So as we heard today already, start with one product, get it included, takes the next product, get it included, and so on and so on. So we are already working with everything around metrics. We are using everything around logs. We are using the first products with metrics forecast and anomaly detection and some more stuff about that. Of course, we are using some kind of hyperscaler for our solutions. We are using products like MongoDB for backend. We are using Kubernetes. Okay, I think it's not really special about that. We are a German company, so we also use SAP. We are one of the biggest customers at SUSE, so for operating system, and therefore we also use Rancher for Kubernetes development, and we are also using Dassault systems for everything about engineering. So that's just an introduction in our tech stack. It's a little bit more bigger, but the slide would be fully blown if I place everything on that. So let's switch back to our beyond just observability presentation. So if we think about observability, normally we have management, we have technicians, and if we thinking about that big tent that already mentioned today, we can use observability nearly from AWS to Zendesk. So you can nearly include every product into the Grafana observability solution, and you can use it for nearly any layer in your company. So if you start with our technicians, we can just take our old school PC, we can use our Inspector Clouseau, and he will drill down in that solution. He will just inspect that system. He will use the normal metrics like CPU, like RAM, like storage, get a little bit information about that. Maybe he will also take that service running on the system in his observability story, taking something like active sessions for a database, CPU time for some database request, and some more. And maybe he will also do some log management for that. And after that, what will come that? Then we will take the application, the whole application landscape in our observability solution, and take something like response duration, so we are using tracing. So that's our technician. He will really drill down in the system. He will take a deep look on something like metrics, on log files, and many more. And the management often not will use toolings like that. So the management is more like Ampel system, just losing a green light or a yellow light or a red light. So for getting something like an easy insight into that system, into that landscape. So maybe only one light for getting a whole overview of my landscape, of my digital solution for that. So technicians drill down, management more like a simple overview. And I already mentioned about AWS and Zendesk. So what's else? Grafana is responsible for that big tent, and we are also using that big tent. You've seen our tech stack, and we are using a lot more technologies in our digital solutions. So we are also using something like Salesforce, MongoDB, SQL Server, SAP, and you can include all that system on two ways. You can use it as an integration of your observability stack, so you can make metrics monitoring, you can make log management for that, and many more. And you can also use it as a data source. Why is that interesting to use it as a data source? Because you have many more information in the system, just using CPU or RAM usage or storage usage. So you have much more options to take a look into that system for also observability. Just only saying, okay, how many customers I have, that's a simple chart on a dashboard. And that's one information, but you can use much more. And I will take a look on 3 small examples for that. One example is end-to-end monitoring. We already heard about that. So you have your CI/CD pipeline, you're using something like Selenium or kitchen testing for that solution, or you maybe also use synthetics monitoring or K6. So obviously you push your code, you build your software, you will deploy it, and you will test it. Maybe with that kitchen testing, you will have a browser session that will open that website, search for an item. If you say you have something like an shop solution which search for an item, it will add that item to your shopping cart and will make something like a payout and exit. So that's all. Is that already end-to-end monitoring? Maybe not. You only have tested it from your customer side, but you have not looked on your information in, for example, that SAP system. You have inserted some information with like an address or with some payment information, and you have tested if the website is reacting in a way you think it should. But is the data right? What is if the data is not right? If your address is maybe wrong, if there is something with an formatting error or your address data is not saved to the database. You will not look into that database and search for that address data and check that data. So is the address exactly the same address I have inserted in my Selenium test? First, if you do that, you will have something like end-to-end monitoring because you will check the data inserted in that browser session to your system. You will look, okay, is address data in my database the same like I have inserted before? Then you have something like end-to-end monitoring. Maybe you can do a little bit more about that. But if you're not using your SAP system or your Salesforce or what else for a data source, you're not able to look into that data and say, okay, is the data the same I have inserted before? Another small example, you have a web shop. You have around 100 user registrations per hour on a normal day. You have around 1,000 purchases in your shop system per day. It's more or less, it's really much less than Amazon has. And you have some other activities on your database. Let's say it's a SQL database or something else, and the other activities on the database is if you're moving some shop items in your storage, or if you deliver something, you have some actions on the database. A customer is placing an order, you say, okay, I will take that order, I will make a commission of that, and I will send that product to the customers. Normally, you can do some metric monitoring on the database amount and see, okay, is my database growing? If it's not growing anymore, something magic is happening, maybe a deployment is going wrong or something else, please send me an alert if it's not growing anymore. Is that all? We see we have 100 activities per minute on the database. We have 1,000 purchases on the database. So the database will grow still if only one of that will not working anymore. So maybe, let's say you're doing a software deployment, you send a new version of your website to the cloud or to your shop system, and the user is not able to register, to make the registration process anymore, maybe because he's not getting the email, or the email compliance is not working fully. So the user is not able to fulfill the user registration. The database, you're still getting your purchases, so the database is still growing, but the user is not able to take the registration anymore. So you lose 100 user registrations per hour, and after that, you will use the purchases in the shop. But the growing of the database, it's still there. You will not see it. It's too less. 100 user registration with the other key facts on the database is too less. You can monitor, you can try to monitor that, but you will get really much of false positives because you're getting a little bit difference on the night or something like that. But you can use the database as a data source. You can look inside in the tables of the data source, how many user registrations, how many purchases, and you can really use the data placed in your SQL database for observability. And you can see, oh hey, I have done a new shop version with my software deployment, and the user registrations is not growing anymore. I have not my 100 user registrations per hour. And you can see that, and you can use metrics forecast for analysis on that, and can see, okay, my table is still growing, so my shop, some parts of the shop is still in function, but the user registration is not. You can see that if you integrate your SQL database as a data source. Last example. Let's switch over to a really other department. Let's say we are using a mail campaign for the marketing. Let's think about we are sending out a marketing newsletter with some information about new special products, new rabbit information or something like that. We are sending that out to 10,000 recipients. Around 3,500 of that person that is receiving that newsletter is clicking on the link and open your shop and using that rabbit code. So 35% reaction. Is that all? Do I really know if 10,000 persons I have sent the mail to have received that email? Maybe not. But how to get information about that? We have our mailing agents that send the mails out. We can use log management to include the auto response from the other mail systems that's saying, oh, that mailbox is not existing anymore, or sorry, that mailbox is already filled, or sorry, what else? And if we take that into account for 10,000 recipients, it's not 10,000 recipients anymore, because around 2,000 is not getting that email. 2,000 persons of my marketing campaign is not able to use that rabbit code. And if we then take that 3,500 clicks on the link, it's not 35% reaction, but it's 43.75% reaction, so nearly 50% reaction. It's much other count for a marketing campaign than 35% reaction. So it's about not only integrate all my IT systems into the observability cloud from Grafana. It's not only taking the integration path, because Grafana, you can use around 80 integrations for different products in that big tent. But you're also able to use more than 100 data sources inside in the Grafana cloud. So you're able, nearly all products you can integrate into your observability solution to use it as a data source. And just go a step to the side of your observability journey to see more information, to take a deeper look in what is observability, what can I do more with my data. Not only the integration. I hope it was able to understand what is the meaning of my presentation, to not only make that integration, but going a step more to that data. So is there any questions? Oh, that has questions.
No, don't be afraid. No, but this kind of detective work to look behind the curtain and ask additional questions to get the observability, is this something you have centralized in your company, or do you propagate this mindset into the different divisions of the company?
We are trying to do both. We are trying to get in contact with our observability teams to the teams that is using our observability solution. And we are trying to enable them to be something like open-minded, with some open eyes, and think about what's more to come. And every time we are using and we are taking another product and integrating it in the observability solution, we are saying, okay, it's integrated. We are taking metric monitoring, we are log management, we are using something like trace management. What else can we do with that integration? Should we use it as a data source? And if yes, what could be the benefits for the company if we are using that as a data source? Because integrating it as a data source, it's not cost money for the Grafana cloud, because you're not moving your data from your on-prem or your cloud solution or any other place into Grafana, but you're only saying, okay, I use something like Private Data Connect or ServiceNow or what else to include that data. So it's really easy, and it's a really, let's say, some low-hanging fruits to enable as a data source and propagate it to the teams and say, okay, now you're able to use it. Please open your mind, think about what could we do with the information stored in that data source. So just trying to enable the teams.
All right, thank you.
Any more questions? There's a question. Several questions. Jeez. Okay.
Just to add up to the question beforehand, so how do you really enable the teams? Can you maybe take an example of action points? Because I guess to go beyond just the IT observability, you're having more data, which means you for sure have in those teams also more business team members or users. So how do you get them to be part of it?
Okay. First step we are trying is to make something like the nearest context. So guys from our IT department, solutions we are using in the IT, that's the first step. That was the first step we already took. So one big solution was the first integration as data source was MongoDB. So, but MongoDB is really easy because MongoDB is used by our development team, so they already know which data is in that MongoDB. So that was a really easy step. But after that, the teams is creating some dashboards and showing that dashboards to the business, to the management, and saying, okay, here, on that dashboard you can see how many new customers, how good was that and that transformation, or what else. So they are showing that dashboards to the management. That's the easy way on Grafana. You have one big database. You have one big place where you can include all data sources and you can use it from the technician to the management. So it was really easy to show that dashboard to the business, to the management. And after that, the business was coming to us and say, okay, I'm interested in also see some SAP data near to my MongoDB data because we are selling machines, for example, and I can see how many users are using our digital solutions, but how many of that users also have shopped some CLAAS machines, for example. And that was a breaking point because after the business already have seen, the management already have seen that dashboards, they was something like interested in seeing more data. And after that, that was breaking change and the business and the management is coming to us and say, okay, I was really interested in see some information from SAP. I am interested in seeing some information from a SQL database. And then something like a self-running story. The best of all that is you need some money also for the include, for the PDC or something else. So it's some internal cost. And if the business and the management comes to you and say, okay, I want to include that, the money is saved. So if the developer is able to build good dashboards for the management, and the management is using the Grafana stack and using that dashboard, something like switching in our company was the key successful for that. So we was not able to go to the business or to the management and say, hey, are you interested in? Normally they say, no, thanks, I don't know what. But after the developer was able to show something up, some nice dashboards, we were in that turn.
One more question over here.
First of all, thanks for the great insights. I'd be interested to understand how come you chose Grafana Cloud and didn't go with the open source?
We used the Grafana open source stack before. So if you have seen my title, I'm coming from container technology, from hosting Kubernetes and something like that. And we was in the first including our observability stack into that Kubernetes cluster. And there was more clusters. So we are using Rancher as something like a single point of contact for every developer all over a Kubernetes cluster. So there was more Kubernetes cluster coming on and coming on and coming on. And on one point we say, okay, we need metrics in all our Kubernetes clusters. So that was default. After some time, our developer came and say, okay, we also need some logs. And after a small time, we have a big observability stack based on Grafana open source in every Kubernetes cluster. And on one point, you will see Grafana is really developing their products. And we was in something like time gap because we was not able to fulfill all that necessary patch management, updates, and so on, and so on, and so on. And that was something like where we said, okay, stop that. That's not the way to go for us. And after that, we took a look out in the market with some different vendors from the Gartner quadrant. I think everybody knows some other names. And we chose Grafana Cloud after that. So we started with open source and switched over to the Grafana Cloud stack.
Any more
There was a
questions?
question from Basti. So maybe a really special question.
Oh, more questions.
Yeah, thanks for a talk. Over. Just one short question. After listening to the talk, do you think you can say Grafana helped you transforming your company into being more data-driven company than before by just giving access to the data, even to management level?
I
Thanks.
think it's a good question, Basti. I think CLAAS as a company already was data-driven before, because you use data nearly every place in your production. We are producing big machines with great techniques on board on that system for auto GPS navigation and some many other things, and that's all producing data. So I think we was already data-driven before we switched over to Grafana Cloud. But yes, the Grafana Cloud is a big option to visualize that data in a better way.
All right. Thank you very much.